So I'm going to turn my layer back on here, my solid fill layer. And then I've got my nice black background. And now I'm going to make sure that I am on my layer mask. And what I want to do is I want to create a fade where this image just sort of fades into the black. So we're going to use a new tool, which is the gradient tool. And the gradient tool is right here in the toolbar. It's 2 spots under the paintbrush. And when I click on that tool, you can see in my options bar, I have a fair amount of options. I can choose the type of gradient. These 2 settings over here are always the same. It's foreground to background. So whatever colors are set here, this first box will always be the foreground to the background fade. If I switch these, then look at that. It goes black to white. When it's switched back, it's white to black. So this first box is always going to be the foreground fading into the background. And I want black on top. The second option is always going to be the foreground to transparent. So if I wanted to go from black to transparent, then I use a gradient and choose this second option with black as my foreground color. Once I move past that, then I get to these options that don't change with my color settings. These are always going to be the same. And I can also create new gradients. There's all different ways to work. I probably have a couple in here that you don't have, which we will be creating and adding a little bit later on in some other projects. But what we want to do is we want to start with just this first one here. It's black to white. And remember, on our layer mask, black hides, white reveals. So what this is going to do is allow us to create a gradient on our layer mask, which will slowly reveal our image. So this is going to be super cool looking when we're done with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right inside the edge of my document here. I'm going to click and then I'm going to drag, and I'm holding the mouse down. And so you can follow along with me. And remember, if you accidentally make a mistake, it doesn't matter. Just Control Z. Okay, so feel free to follow along and explore. You can always Control Z to take a step back if you make a mistake. But I'm going to click and drag. And what I want to do is go from just inside the edge of my image here. And I want to drag into, I don't know, about to this guitar. And one trick I want to show you about gradients. You see how I'm like at all these different angles? If I hold the Shift key, it forces it to be straight, horizontal, vertical, or at 45-degree angles. You see how it kind of jumps in 45-degree angle increments? So we want it to be perfectly horizontal, so I can just hold Shift once I start dragging, and then it's going to create this perfectly horizontal edge, and then I'm going to just let go. And now I've got this nice dissolved edge in my image. And if I'm not happy with it, I can always just kind of drag again. I want to drag a little further. Oh, I don't like that as much. I'm going to drag again. And I'm noticing that as I drag, wherever I click, wherever I start clicking, it's perfectly black there. So that's going to be the edge of my image. So if I come back over here, I don't get any, right? Because it's hiding everything over here, but there's nothing over there anyway. So what I want to do is I want to get pretty close to the edge of this image. And then I'm going to just drag over this way to the guitar. And there we go. I've got a nice fade moving into my image. So it's kind of hiding this stuff over here. And it really makes the image feel a lot more unified. There's a lot more feeling that this background goes with the image rather than it kind of feeling like it's almost fighting with the image. So this is a really great way to get images to blend. And again, the mask is the best way to work. This gradient just gives us a simple way to easily fade across a particular plane. And so it gives me a really easy way to sort of dissolve this image. And I'm going to just try one other thing. I'm going to try dragging a little further and see what happens. I'm going to drag all the way over to this far shoulder. And I think it's just dissolving his arm too much. So I'm going to go back and get it to go to about the guitar. So you see how it's, again, it's just very visual. In Photoshop, you have to experiment. The beauty of using this option of black to white is that no matter where you drag, every single time it totally resets it. If I was using this one that went to transparent, I might not be erasing some of my earlier marks. So this first option of black to transparent is really a great one to use. And so I'll just kind of drag in, and I just want to try and make it as long as possible without losing too much of my image. I think I'm pretty happy with that, so let's roll forward.